Hello and welcome to the Microsoft Megabyte for April 23rd, 2020. I'm Brian Gavados from the training team, and today I'm going to take you into my world for a moment to chat with two of my fellow co-trainers, Alex Humble and Kyle Van Son. But why? Well, sometimes, especially during these particularly strange times, it's very easy to feel totally detached and disconnected from people who impact our day-to-day lives and our work. We know that as trainers specifically, if we screw up, if we're off the mark, and if our content, sucks, then it has an absolutely massive ripple effect as it goes out to you and it goes out to the rest of the field teams. So we wanted you to hear from us directly about how we develop content, about what's currently on our plate, and most importantly, we wanted you to be a part of this conversation. So listen toward the end of our discussion as we invite you to provide your direct feedback to us about how we can better support you, really, and how our content can help lighten your workload. So let's dive in. And just like that, we're recording. See that? See that? See how seamless that was? So I'm here with my co-workers, my co-trainers. Well, at least two of them. I have Alex Humble and Kyle Van Son. Alex is focusing, where are you? You're mostly on Surface these days, right, Alex?
Yeah, mostly on Surface, and then all of those courses, many of the handouts and the other sort of printable or viewable assets. That's really what I'm working on.
Yeah, so you and I work hand in hand a lot since I try to focus a lot on Office and a lot of the training videos and other assets like you mentioned. But Kyle is certainly, he's orbiting just outside of us. He's so close to being as cool as we are.
That's usually how I describe it. I focus on our commercial business and specifically small to mid-size businesses.
Okay, great. This is actually why I was excited to have all three of us discussing the current training landscape together, because when you talk about big categories like Surface, Windows, Office, and then commercial, which encompasses all of those and then so much more, there's a lot of different training tactics and a lot of different methodologies and a lot of different hurdles that we all have to go through, and especially in this current climate. So I think it's high time that we just sat down together and gave the field an update on how we're working right now. I think it's safe to say now more than ever, we're focusing on digital content. Our face-to-face trainings, for some weird reason, have really dialed back lately. Have you guys noticed that?
Just a little bit.
Yeah, I had so many things on the calendar that just up and vanished.
So why have we been making any adjustments in how we're developing content, Alex?
Well, we're trying to be cognizant of how people are actually consuming content. They're not in the stores. They're not on the floors. They're at home. So we want to make sure that we have content that can reach them, but that's also relevant to the way they've changed in their work habits. We actually made a shift about 6-7 months ago towards more digital content. And it was really just to reach more people without us having to travel so much, because Brian, Kyle, myself, we've all traveled a ton for our jobs, and we wanted to do that less. And so we started looking into more programs and avenues to get content out. We're actually lined up really well to do this. And Kyle and I especially started looking at creating courses. Brian, you were looking at, podcasts and videos. So my job really throughout the week is on Mondays, we release a big course for everyone to take. It could be work from home course, maybe new product knowledge, something that could be useful for you while you are at home. It could even be something like how to organize your workspace. That's been one of the courses. Then throughout the week, we work on new social posts, on new handouts, job aids, one-pagers. And then on Friday, we release a 30 to 60-minute seminar going over a topic or a line of business really in depth and just covering as much as we can within that 60 minutes. That's been my workload for the past month or so.
So Kyle, you're on the commercial side of things, and a lot of people listening, a lot of our field team will probably have less exposure to your areas of focus than, things like Surface and Windows 10 Home and all that stuff. So it was important for me to get your perspective on here, because a lot of the content and a lot of the topics you cover are all about, productivity and multitasking and getting things done and being secure and top performing devices and everything. So there's a lot of overlap there. And I think now more than ever, with so many people working from home and working in, necessarily creative ways, I think a lot of your best practices might apply. And so I'm curious, has your training world changed too? What kind of materials are you developing for the people that are representing Microsoft on the commercial side?
Things have changed, I think, less significantly on my end. There's been a push, absolutely, to create a lot of assets covering the shift to working from home, but a lot of it focuses still on the same sort of core principles that we cover when we talk about Windows 10 Pro. And one of the big differences, like you mentioned, there are huge differences between selling at retail versus selling commercial. First of all, I never talk Surface. Surface has its own commercial team. So we focus exclusively on the rest, all of our OEM partners, which means all of my training work tends to be very device agnostic and focused just on what is it inside of Windows 10 Pro that makes it best for business. So there's a huge security push, a huge productivity push, and a huge management push. So that security and productivity focus and somewhat management, managing these remote devices and making sure they're still, meeting all the important rules that an IT department might set are still important if the employee is remote. But since the workforce has embraced remote work in the last decade, there's less of a scramble to shift to that mentality and more just about, how do we get onboarded with teams if you are not, going to conference rooms and working every day with people you see face to face, stuff like that.
Do you see any FAQs about Teams specifically? Are there any best practices that have been rolling out recently for that work from home sort of subtopic?
I have been doing a ton of basic level Teams 101 trainings, more so than I did since shifting to commercial work. And Teams has been around for 2, maybe going on 3 years. And you'd think that there would have been a huge push when it launched for all of these introductory trainings. And it's just now happening. And I think it's due to this shift in how we work.
Yes. And I think much of that overlap I mentioned earlier between our two sort of universes, commercial and consumer, is Teams. So when you think about Teams itself, if you're comfortable with Teams at work, you're probably going to be comfortable with how it can work for your family as well. So for the consumer side of things, are there any components of Teams that you're really excited about? If your mom was shopping at one of our retail partners and she was shown a Teams demo, what kind of things do you think would interest her about that?
I think the structure of how conversations get organized in Teams is really beneficial. If you remember a few years ago, there was a huge push for Slack to take over for a lot of just simple messaging, not even business. Individuals were using Slack for their weekly conversations with people. I miss my old high school or college friends and we all live across the country. So we've got a Slack where we talk, here's our movies conversation and here's our get together ideas from when we all meet up in Disney World. Teams can do the same. Teams lets you organize your conversation in different ways, whether or not it's a one-on-one chat with just you and another individual in your family versus group chats that are more free-flowing versus the conversation or post views that happens inside of different teams and channels, which allows it to be a lot more structured and focused on different topics. So I think a family could really take advantage of that by having conversations on, if we have an extended family all joining Teams together and all of our kids now are homeschooled, we can, those schools might be using individual programs. Some might be using Teams for Education. Some might be using Google Classroom. But for our family and our extended family, we're all together in Microsoft Teams sharing the different tactics we're taking to supplement kids' learning and sharing that information in a dedicated team or channel all around that topic. And then in the same application, we can shift over and have conversations. We're all going to get together and live chat along with this movie we're going to watch Friday night. And that can all happen in one application.
Hold up. What's this? A commercial? Wait, am I doing a commercial in the middle of the podcast? What? Wait, are we sponsored? Does that mean I start getting paid? No? Oh, no? Oh, okay, what's this? I just need to tell them about the sweepstakes so they can win a bunch of cool prizes. Well, that's good too. For them. Oh, I'm making myself laugh all alone in my sad little room. But hey, there's no time for sadness because it's true. There's a sweepstakes afoot, and you should get involved ASAP. Seriously, head over to Expert Zone and check out the April Expert Zone sweepstakes. This is available through the end of April, and you can get two entries if you just complete the courses listed. 2! And I don't think I'm supposed to tell you this, but I'm alone in this room, so who cares? There aren't exactly millions of people currently entered, so your chances of winning are, let's just say, higher than they normally are. So it would behoove you to head over to Expert Zone and search for sweepstakes, and the April Expert Zone sweepstakes will pop right up. Okay? Get to it. Commercial over. So, Alex, you mentioned that a lot of your focus lately has been on creating learning courses online. As you go through that process, it'd be great for the field team to hear about what you're thinking about as you receive a new request and then are tasked with cascading it out to so many of our field team members and retail pros out in the field. What does that look like from beginning to end when you get that request and then you develop that course?
So I think for me, one of the most difficult parts about creating these courses is everything that we've done, all of our past experiences with training has been in person. And so we're able to get ideas and energy and feedback off of the audience that we're trying to reach. And when it's a course, I can't correct or change midway through the course. So I really do have to sit down and force myself to think of what is the end goal with this. How can I get there without getting that feedback? So I have to have a much stronger, topic. And so, for instance, the biggest one that we've been working on now is that work from home topic. We receive a request that, so many of our market managers, our WSET team, they're all at home working, and that's new for them. This is a field team. They are out in the field all the time. And so it's maybe not their natural or most comfortable environment. So taking what we've learned, because hey, we're almost always home now, putting it into a course to help them do better at home, that was a big priority for us. So getting all of that wrapped up and put into 3 different courses, it was tough, but I think we got a lot of good little nuggets out of that. So in the end, it was tough to create that course for us to take everything that we've learned, some of the things we've done well, some of the things we don't do so well. But I think it's going to be useful to distill all of that knowledge down for our field teams and for anyone who's working at home.
As I've had many of our leaders on to discuss what makes them so passionate about Microsoft and things, one topic has come up more than a couple times, and that is accessibility and Microsoft's commitment to the whole topic of accessibility. I know a lot of our content, we try to embed accessibility all the time to make sure that A, our content itself is accessible, and B, that an audience concerned with accessibility is going to find something valuable there. So I want to touch on for just a minute that topic and how we try to incorporate accessibility into everything that we do. So how has the topic of accessibility impacted the content you've been making?
Recently on the commercial side, there's been a huge push to cover accessibility more extensively. I've been developing not only some content decks that cover it from an all-up perspective, which go into not only the tools and features themselves inside of Windows and Office, but also why it's so important, why it's such a huge push inside of Microsoft, and also the sort of what's in it for me, for organizations, for businesses large and small, to embrace these kinds of tools, whether it's a wider talent pool to hire from or just higher net income because you're embracing these different options and people.
So as part of that, because it's a pretty big conversation, that's actually one of our next upcoming seminars. We have 30 minutes on how Microsoft focus on accessibility in all of their products and services to empower people and organizations. Because when we build when we build from the ground up with accessibility in mind, we build products that reach more people. So it's something that the commercial side is thinking about all the time because they want to make sure that everyone is productive as possible, but we want that to reach into our retail customers as well. So that seminar, I think, will really help show why it's so important to include accessibility.
Yeah, and from a sales perspective, and I'm talking to you now, the listener who's wondering why you should care about accessibility and why it's such a focus. There's a lot of noble reasons, like seriously, some amazing work that Microsoft's putting into accessibility. But beyond that, there's also a real tangible, practical sales reason to focus on accessibility, to give it your attention. One, it's a topic that really forces you to have empathy. And as a salesperson, as someone representing a brand, that is a critical skill. If you can identify a feature that maybe an accessory has or a piece of software has, like Screen Reader or Immersive Reader, and see that even though you may not personally need that feature or that benefit, to imagine the scenario of someone who would allows you to have that much deeper conversations with your customers and that much more immersive level of demos when you can put yourself in the shoes of someone who has those needs and then address them with a demo and with the recommendation. I mean, that's a very winning recipe for a sales interaction. We want to be sure as a training team that we're adapting to the climate that we're in and to the future that's coming. So online presence is massive for our content, and we're trying to make sure it's A, relevant, and B, interesting enough to keep you, the field team, wanting to check back with us to see what's new and what we have available. So how are we wrapping our heads around this? We have our Facebook group for our retail sales pros. We have various online learning management platforms that our retail partners use. We have podcasts. We have training videos, all these things. How are we thinking about things moving forward as we're developing more online content and keeping our field engaged?
So I'll start with Facebook. We wanted to build more of a community to engage with the experts, with everyone on our Expert Zone Facebook page. One of the first things I noticed is we have a lot of great Xbox content, but not as much of Windows Office and Surface. So we actually put a poll out to see what kind of content you all wanted to see more of. We were kind of surprised by it. You wanted more content on individual Office applications. So we started creating content around just shortcuts, one-pagers, quick start guides, and we've actually scheduled those to post out every single week. You'll see a new theme, whether we're talking about best uses in PowerPoint, tips to organize your inbox, or how to migrate over from OneDrive. These are all sort of topics that we've sourced from you all, making sure that we're listening to the audience that we're making content for.
On the commercial side, I will say that retail has a stronger play in Expert Zone, but commercial is nipping at their heels. We are putting out more and more commercial-focused courses every day, covering everything from our OEM devices to Windows Server topics. I actually believe by the time this is available for people's ears, there will be a Windows Server 2019 contest for folks to take, running through June 1st. To win devices and sweatshirts and everything in between. I'm not exactly sure. Don't hold me to that.
Well, actually, you bring up a good point. We are trying to up our online community's engagement with various sweepstakes. So please, if you see that we have a sweepstakes going, either through Expert Zone or through our Facebook group, please participate in that. The more you participate, the more those sweepstakes we'll have, and the more reason we'll have to go back to various people at Microsoft to say, give us more prizes, give us more stuff to give away, because look at how high the participation is.
Yeah, if we can kind of let you in behind the curtain, one of the biggest things that people tell us all the time is, hey, we want more rewards. There's got to be an incentive for us to take these training courses. We know you want, the latest information to stay up to date, but we also get that you want rewards. And so when we create these courses, and especially these contests, it's really important that you participate, because otherwise it looks like, well, to our higher ups, it looks like that's not the motivator. And so we look for other ways to try and get engagement.
Yeah, and if you don't engage soon, we're going to go to plan B, and that's just the tuna can plan. And everyone who engages gets to smell some tuna. And we don't think that's going to be a good motivator, but we're going to try it if we don't get high enough engagement on these sweepstakes, right, guys?
This is actually something we are struggling with on the commercial side right now. We're doing these, not the tuna part, the engagement part. We've had to, of course, move all of our events to virtual and web-based trainings, including a series that are called Partner Discovery Forums, which are essentially about getting smaller resellers to push Office. If you think you have a troubling time on the retail side attaching Office, believe me, it's a struggling commercial as well. So these events now have to be virtual, but they were planning to be like 2.5 to 3 hours of Office training. And then we're in New Orleans. Let's go on a ghost tour. And then we're going to try some jambalaya and some beignets. And now it's like, what do we do to get people to even want to attend these when they can't go learn about a haunted house afterwards?
Right.
I believe one of them happening in June will actually do a virtual cooking class after the training.
Hey, Kyle, commercial trainings sound very different. Beignets?
Cooking classes? Ghosts?
Oh, my.
You've really got to twist people's arms to get them to come to just 2.5 hours of Office training sometimes.
So despite these incredible ghost tours and tuna competitions we're talking about, tuna is a joke, by the way, but we do want to know how we can get better. So we've created a really, really quick survey for you. It's at tinyurl.com/Microsoft Social. That's tinyurl, tinyurl.com/Microsoft Social. It's a quick, literally 3 or 4 question survey to get your feedback on how do we get more views online? How do we get more engagement online from our various channels that we discussed? And we want to be sure to have your input before we make any changes. So please fill that out. Let us know what you think so that we can incorporate your groovy ideas. So I think that pretty much wraps it up for this first trainer roundtable discussion. So I want to thank Alex and Kyle for their participation here, for giving me their time. I think we're actually over and we're already into the next call because, Teams is letting me know that. So thanks so much, guys. And I'm not paying you anything for being here. In fact, this counts as recreation, so you're going to need to request time off for the time that you were on this podcast. I'm so sorry. I should have told you that at the beginning, actually.
This is egregious. How has this been allowed to happen?
Thanks so much, guys. Well, it's true. Those chuckleheads are who I deal with day in and day out. And while we're all borderline insane, we really are trying our best to make sure everything we pump out is relevant and valuable to you. So please do take that quick survey at tinyurl.com/Microsoft Social so that we can continue building content with you in mind. We need your feedback to do that. Hey, what about gaming? What about Xbox? We didn't talk about that at all. Well, that's because we don't know anything about that. And that's why I'll be chatting one-on-one with our illustrious Xbox Master Trainer, Josh Bassetti, on an upcoming episode to talk all things gaming and entertainment. And trust me, even if you aren't a gamer yourself, we'll make sure to discuss things to help you sell and attach easier. Comments, questions, gifts, emojis? Well, send them directly to megabytepodcast@microsoft.com. Yeah, just email me, megabytepodcast@microsoft.com. Tell me what you think of the podcast. Tell me what you wish we'd do more of. Tell me what you don't like. I'm always happy to hear from you, no matter what it is. Until next time, stay safe, keep learning, and we'll chat soon. This has been the Microsoft Megabyte Podcast, a training tool for Microsoft field team members and sales professionals across the country, produced by Microsoft employees.